Hey there, it's Courtney again, one of the baristas from Vita Dolce in Southern Village. I've got Padme here with me, and today we are going to do another activity with the coffee grounds. I'm using the same batch of coffee grounds that I got from the cafe the other day. You definitely don't need a whole lot of grounds to do any of these activities. A small amount will definitely suffice, but for today's activity, it's a lot more kid-friendly, a lot simpler than the other one, and it is Easter themed or spring themed, whichever you prefer, and super duper simple, like I said. You actually can just use your fingers for this one if you want to do some finger painting. If you would prefer to use a brush, totally fine too. You pretty much are just going to need the coffee grounds, your finger, a little bit of water, and a piece of paper. I'm using just printer paper today. The other time I used cardstock, but we're going even simpler today. And yeah. The design that we're doing this time, I'm going to use a paintbrush just so that my fingers don't get super dirty and I can still touch my computer to start and stop the camera when I need to. But you can definitely just use your finger like I said. And all we are going to draw with the actual coffee grounds, or all we're going to paint with the actual coffee grounds, are 4 shapes. The first one is going to be a little bit bigger than the other 3, and it's going to be more of an oval shape. And I think all of us can draw an oval. Perfect circle, maybe not, but oval, a little more doable. And I don't know if you can tell in the camera, but the printer paper, because it is a little bit thinner than the cardstock, it does start warping a little bit as soon as you put the liquid on there. It kind of starts like bubbling a little bit. That's totally fine. Once it dries, you can always flatten it with like a heavy book or something if it really bothers you, but it's not going to be the end of the world if your paper gets a little bit bubbly, you know? So we've got our big oval over here, and then we're going to draw, or paint, I guess is the correct term, 3 more round rather than oval, so more circular, but obviously don't have to be perfect circles. Padme is loudly drinking water in the background. She knows that staying hydrated is an important part of quarantine. Alright, so we've got 2 circles and a 3rd circle. Now this design is definitely one where you're going to need a fine point pen, a ballpoint pen, a marker, literally any kind of writing utensil that you have laying around, because we are going to go back in once this is dry and add some more detail. We're going to add the faces. Doesn't look like much now, but this is going to be a bunny, and these 3 are going to be little baby chicks. Obviously, we're gonna need a Sharpie or a marker to make that happen, because right now they just kind of look like brown blobs. But so I'm just going back over, making these a little bit darker. We'll probably have to wait for this to dry and then add another layer of coffee to kind of get it a little bit darker before we go in and add the face. So we're going to let that dry. Alright, so they are a little bit drier now. We're going to go back in and add our next layer of coffee. And I'm just going over all of those 4 shapes, making them a little bit darker and more defined. So obviously if you're using your finger to do this, or doing a little bit of finger painting, it definitely is going to have more grounds. More grounds will kind of stick to your finger. I'll show you just how I would do it if I was doing a finger paint, so I'll just make one more little trick down here with just my finger. So you kind of just go right in there. Don't be afraid. Obviously there's nothing toxic in this that's gonna make you sick, and you know, if you've got a little one who gets their fingers all dirty and then runs around and touches things in the house, it's totally fine. It will come off since it is just coffee. And again with printer paper, because it is more delicate than cardstock, you don't want to like be super aggressive with it, you know. Just kind of tap, make a little circle, give it a little bit of personality, or individuality, I guess I should say. It's unique now since it's got your fingerprint on it. You can always re-wet your finger if you feel like you're just getting ground stuck to it but not actually getting any pigmentation. And I like to kind of make, again, like a little hole and tap the middle. You can see there's a little bit of liquid in there that's going to give us our color. Don't worry about the grounds, just be careful not to exfoliate the paper with them. Alright, so that is the fingerprint chick. Obviously doesn't look like a chick just yet, kind of just looks like a bunch of potatoes. That's totally fine. I guess if you love potatoes, you could just leave them as potatoes. But we are going to add a face to them in just a little while, maybe 5 minutes or so once this dries. Alright, so once your circles are sufficiently dark and you feel good about the pigmentation of them, you can just go ahead and sort of wipe the grounds off. And you can see that the fingerprint painting one definitely has a little bit more texture, a little bit more gradient, is a little bit less smooth maybe than the ones with the paintbrush, but they're all beautiful in my opinion. And now we are going to go in and add the face and arms and legs and such of our little critters. So this is going to be the rabbit. We can start with him. I would start with the ears, and you're just going to draw 2 big open loops for the ears. Then the eyeballs, obviously 2 little ovals. It's always hard to get them perfectly even, but and then for the little nose, I like to draw a little heart. Obviously a finer point marker is going to be a little bit better for this just because they are kind of small details depending on how big you made the circle. And then we'll go ahead and do the mouth. Add some whiskers. Can't forget the fluffy bunny tail, which just kind of looks like a little cloud. And then we'll add some little feet. And there is our little rabbit. For the chicks, you can do a couple different variations of them. You can draw them facing forward. So you'll just draw an upside down triangle and 2 eyeballs with some little wings on the side and some little chicken legs. And you can always go back and add the top line of the beak, or you can leave it as just the V, totally up to you. You can add a little top knot if you want him to be more of like a rooster. For the sideways facing ones, you are just going to draw the lines facing sideways, sort of like that. And then you will draw the little eyeball. The wing will be on the side since this is a profile view. And then the little chicken feet. And let's see, for this guy, maybe we'll make him face the other way. He looks very surprised. Alright, oh, and I forgot our little fingerprint chick. Our fingerprint chick we will have facing forward. Maybe we'll just give him a couple hairs. And maybe some more triangular wings, why not? And the little legs. Alright, very nice. So we've got 4 chicks and our little bunny friend. And up top here, I'm just going to write Hoppy Spring. I'm going to go with Hoppy Spring. You could definitely do Hoppy Easter. You could do Happy Easter if you don't. Not a fan of puns, totally up to you. I am going to write Hoppy. And of course you could also do this part in coffee first if you wanted to. I was trying to keep it as simple as possible so that even really young kids can help do this one. Obviously mom and dad or older brother, older sister might need to do the lettering and the faces just because it is a little bit more detailed. But the actual finger painting itself is pretty simple. And there we go. You could add maybe some little flowers. I have an even finer point on this marker, so maybe with that I'll add some flowers. Kind of tie in the spring theme a little bit more. Maybe just some blades of grass too. Beautiful. And there is your Hoppy Spring or Hoppy Easter card. Obviously, I didn't space the lettering perfectly. That's totally fine. Our goal isn't perfection, it's just a distraction from quarantine and giving ourselves something to do. And now we have this cute little card or poster. You can hang it up in your kid's room. They can send it to one of their family members, or put it on the fridge. Do whatever you want with it. It smells like coffee, which is an added plus. And yeah, I hope this gave you something to do. Have a great day, y'all.